When you build a business with a partner, you give them total administrative control. You're sharing every password, every profit margin, and the specific workflows that make the company function. It requires absolute, unchecked trust. 7 years ago, I started a digital agency out of a spare bedroom. By year 3, we were handling web design, branding, and SEO, and the growth outpaced what one person could manage. So I brought in a partner. I'll call him David. We established a clear division of labor. David handled the front end, managing sales, pitching to clients, and maintaining those relationships. I stayed entirely on the back end, building the operational infrastructure and actually delivering the work. For 3 years, it worked well, but that rigid split masked a structural reality about who actually held the power in the company. Because we divided the tasks evenly, it created an illusion that we were contributing equal value to the final product. I found out what was happening by accident. One afternoon, a loyal client who had been with us for 4 years called me directly. She sounded awkward. She told me she had been privately approached and wanted to give me a heads up before making a decision. David had contacted her to say he was starting a new company, offering her a discounted rate if she followed him. He had quietly done the exact same thing to 6 other key accounts, all within a tight 2-week window. This diagram illustrates what I found in our CRM that evening. You can see the central database hub and what happened 3 weeks earlier. David had systematically gone through, draining specific data nodes, and exported our entire client list into his own isolated container. I sat with that information in silence for 48 hours. I didn't call him, and I didn't immediately call a lawyer. It forces a very specific question. If your business partner successfully walks away with your entire client list, have they actually stolen the business? We had a partnership agreement with a standard non-solicitation clause, meaning no soliciting clients for 2 years after leaving. Instead of an emotional confrontation, I called my lawyer. By Wednesday, David received a formal legal notice enforcing that contract. He called me immediately, angry and entirely caught off guard. He launched his rival agency anyway, taking the 2 clients who hadn't warned me about his pitches. The other 5 stayed. The company was now officially split into 2 competing entities. David walked away holding a fragment of the raw contact list, while I retained the underlying machinery that we used to service those contacts. While David was busy trying to spin up his new operation, my immediate strategy was stabilization. I personally called every remaining client on our roster. Not to complain about David, but to check in, deepen the relationship, and offer better terms. Next, I needed to replace the front end. I hired a dedicated salesperson whose entire function was client acquisition, effectively replacing everything David had contributed to the partnership. This diagram shows the operational rebuild. On the left is the isolated sales node, but on the right is the delivery engine. Over the next 6 months, I heavily invested in that engine, adding new tools, refining our processes, and speeding up turnaround times. The agency grew demonstrably stronger. And here you can see the fatal flaw in David's setup on the left. He possessed the raw relationships, but as those incoming inputs hit his new agency, they flashed red and stalled. He lacked the fulfillment infrastructure required to actually service the accounts he took. Operational infrastructure naturally compounds in value as you refine it over time. A static spreadsheet of stolen contacts decays almost instantly if you don't have the execution to back it up. Fast forward to month 11. David's rival agency completely collapsed. The exact mechanics of the failure were straightforward. He was carrying crushing overhead costs with a team that was simply too small to handle the workload. Without the legacy systems I had built, the quality of his output plummeted. Within 6 months, the 2 clients he managed to poach abandoned him. One even came directly back to us. The legal case was eventually settled quietly, and David retreated out of the agency space entirely, taking a salaried role as an employee at someone else's company. The 11-month postmortem proves a harsh reality. A spreadsheet full of names and phone numbers is an illusion of an asset if you do not own the actual machinery required to fulfill those contracts. Business betrayal operates through cold logic. It is a deliberate strategy designed to bypass the years of work required to build a reputation and a system from scratch. David's specific miscalculation was looking at our CRM, the data, and his sales playbooks, and believing those pieces constituted the entirety of our company's worth. The most valuable, unstealable asset in the entire company existed outside of any CRM or shared folder. It lived in the creator's ability to design and maintain the systems themselves. True execution will always outlast stolen connections. Someone might be able to copy your directory, but they can't copy your capability. Karma and business can be painfully slow, but it is always precise.